short version of the long story is, Jason's been my go-to, and, BMW Ridgefield's been my go-to to work on my track cars for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And having gotten into racing, he was even more perfect in that Jason is also a racer. And so, besides being an E36 specialist, right, he loves my car like it's his own, and is, my trusted go-to guy for getting the car dialed in for whatever track I might happen to be on.
My name is Jason Necef. I've been with BMW for 25 years and with BMW Ridgefield for 13 years. So I used to race with BMW CCA for a few years. I used to live in Ohio, so Mid-Ohio was my kind of home track. And moved to Connecticut 13 years ago. I've been here ever since. So as a shop foreman. So, yeah.
In this case, race weekend up at Watkins Glen was an opportunity for Jason to come up and experience a track he'd not been to yet. And as he's soon to go back to race school to re-up his comp license, he's going to be racing there. So it was like going to be a fun little trip up, beautiful drive up to
it was nice.
the Finger Lakes and get to see Watkins Glen. So that was the plan. Friday, he was coming up Saturday morning. So Friday I got to race in a endurance race, which was my qualifier for my grid position for the sprint races. And on the third lap of the endurance race, had some excitement in the cockpit, going about 105 miles an hour into a brake zone. Big puff of smoke comes out from the shifter, and then I see a big glow of flames, and hard on the brakes, trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to have to do here? I'm going to have to bail out of the car. I pull the car offline, get onto the grass. The fire was sort of smoldering. The smoke was a little bit less. The car was still running. So I thought, okay, best thing to do, if I can get the car into the pits without having to stop, get out of the car, or God forbid, pull the fire suppression system, right? I'm going to try to do that. This way they won't have to red flag the race and stop the race. So brought the car in, managed to get the car back to my pit area, and then called Jason immediately and said, yeah, funny story. Fire in the cockpit. Sent him some pictures, took the center console apart, found some not good workmanship from a previous mechanic at a non-BMW dealership that had done some race car wiring and wasn't done very well. So took some pictures, sent them to Jason, and he basically cobbled together a whole bunch of parts, wiring harness, and stuff he thought he would need, and brought it up the next morning. So Saturday morning he shows up. We look at the car. I show him what I found. He looks at me and kind of winks and smiles and says, I got this. And basically gets in the car, one leg, working on the car. And about an hour later, he had all new wiring pieces, parts, terminations, and new switches that he went and found that matched the exact switches I had in the car. So we got the car back together, pushed to start, car starts up, runs perfectly, and I managed to go out and win the next 2 sprint races that I entered for Saturday. So couldn't have done it without him. And he had some fun experiencing a new track and was also my track support there. Working on the race radio, communicating with me about what was happening on track, and basically was very, very helpful in me actually being able to win the 2 races. So very cool. And I think in the meantime, because you had the dealership support vehicle there, we actually had some inquiries from people that are not necessarily in this market asking about, hey, can you help me with my race car? And so Jason actually had a few conversations with people that looks like they might be actually engaging you guys to work on their race cars. So it was kind of a win-win, got to say.
So
they have a race on the 20th, right?
A year from now, I will have my comp license renewed, and the race that David was just in would potentially be the first race that I'm in, possibly, just based on the timeline. Yeah.
So he's going to race school because after a certain number of years, 2 or 3 years, you have to re-up your license if it expires. And Jason hasn't been racing for a few years, 13 years. So he's going back to get his race license. What he has been doing is I've been grooming him for what's called the ITS program, which is instructor training for BMW. And he's been riding right seat and instructing people up at Lime Rock to help people learn how to not race school, but how to do high performance driver education. He's been right seat coaching people. And obviously, his ability as a driver is, amazing. So being able to keep somebody safe, get them around the track, and teach them, the limits of their car in a controlled performance driving environment is, it's fun, and it's actually very helpful for both of us.
Yeah. Forces you to kind of dissect what you're doing yourself. If you're going to teach somebody else, explain somebody else, how to drive on a road course, then you need to be accurate, right? So it forces you to become a better driver yourself, and especially if it's somebody's first time on track, it's a lot of fun watching them get enjoyment out of it, because it's usually a pretty big surprise for somebody the first time they drive on track. Yeah.
Learning what their car can actually do in a controlled environment. It's one of the really exciting things that has happened really with you guys, and what's piqued my interest is the fact that you're now a motorsports dealer and are installing performance upgrades on cars that can then go to the track. And, not for racing, but it's sort of a gateway, right? For people that may want to go racing. The first thing you have to do is walk before you run, right? You have to learn how to drive your car in a high performance driver education. And then if you want to go to the next level, you can. But having that awareness and having the dealership engage in, raising the awareness of their clients around what's possible, even on a regular street car, taking a brand new car or a 10-year-old car, doesn't matter. Being able to bring that to the track and learn how to properly drive your car in a controlled environment with an instructor in the car, it's huge. And that I saw that as kind of the missing link to, what the dealerships have been doing for years. And a lot of dealerships just ignore that side of things. And a lot of clients will say to me when they find out about track driving, I always wondered, how do I get on track, right? I always wanted to drive my car on the track. I never knew how to do it. So it's really cool that you guys are doing that. That one of the clients that you all have, I met at a driver education, who has an M8, I think, and has done all kinds of motorsports upgrades to it. And the car's just ridiculous.
We had done most of the stuff we had just done here. He's a good customer of ours. He comes in the shop and we talk about all the upgrades he's going to make to his car. He's got a newer M8, so we're a carbon dealer. So we did a lot of carbon stuff and a combination of a couple other things. And so when we're at the track at Lime Rock in the paddock, he's there with us because he's one of our friends, so pretty nice environment. When you go to the paddock at Lime Rock, everyone is pretty helpful. And it's nice to see our customers there. And also probably 6 or 7 of our techs this year will be out there on track, because it's, it's something that they realize all of a sudden that they can do. Like, okay, let's get out there.
Driving their cars on the track, which is exciting. And I got to say, the fit with the dealership for me is, besides Jason and, the value that he adds, having you all sponsor me as a racer and to be in that environment and have people see the dealership information on the car and to come over and talk to me about that stuff is, and the number of racers that are now going to be coming here to have their annual tech inspections done, let alone just basic service stuff, but the annual tech inspection is required, obviously every year on your race car. Got to take care of your race car. Yeah. And that's something that, is hard to find in the area,
So I've always kind of been here helping David set up his car, trying to keep it safe and fast. And so that kept me in in the loop, and
Let's just call it what it is. I've been torturing Jason for 10 years because we would talk about the track, and he's very modest, but he was the IS class champion at Mid-Ohio. And as a racer, to get to that level and then not be on track is kind of like a form of torture when you're working on somebody's race car and you are a racer. So I'm like, Jason, got to get you out there, got to get you out there. And yeah, it finally wore him down. And he put together, the evil genius he is, he put together this amazing track car and has been, tearing it up, and now he's pointed back to, the whole race side of things, which is, awesome.
Cool.
And I'm going to be racing with him on track at some point. So my only concern is that if he gets into IP, the same class as me, I think I might be in trouble. So.
Yeah, actually, at the beginning of last year, I think that was right around the time where we first became a motorsport dealer. Jim Nenning, the service manager, mentioned to me that if I wanted to run in the Lime Rock track day, that they would pay for my registration. So I kind of gathered together all of the parts that I had laying around for my daily driver that I had gotten recently, and made it so it was appropriate to take to the track. And David was my instructor for my first event.
He really needed instruction.
And at that time, I think it was like 12 years since I'd been on track. So once it happened once, it was all downhill. Like, okay,
You're back.
yeah. And by the end of the season, it was relatively unsafe. Just with my little seat belts, I couldn't stay in the seat anymore. So over the winter, I built it into like a proper safe track car. Yeah.
So race seats, harness,
8-point roll cage, and it's still evolving as the year goes on, but by next year it'll be ready to race with all the safety equipment, like the window nets and fire suppression. You have to have special battery cutoffs, like battery isolation for safety. That way, if you have an issue, you could just flip a big switch and the whole car is shut down. So I still have a bunch of stuff to do, along with renewing my comp license. But for now, I'm just on track, having a blast. Yeah. The car itself was actually a California car, so it was a rust-free car that I got from the original owner, but it had some mechanical issues, needed a clutch and a couple other small things. So I had a very low investment. I just have a lot of time, and now I just have a lot of time, but not a lot of money into the car. Yeah. Very little.
So the good news is every time I bring the race car in to have, what we call nut and bolt, right? So Jason's going to go through it, make sure nothing's falling off the car after a race and the car's safe to go. I put generally a new set of tires on for a race weekend, and the tires that are coming off are not necessarily done. They're just not at their maximum grip. So as an additional form of gratitude, I usually give Jason those tires, and he's been running those on his car, and they still work really well. So,
So also, most of the parts that make my car pretty decent are David's old parts off this car. Should have mentioned that. So his tires, his used race tires, that they still work okay. They're not at their peak, but they're fine.
Right.
And then, if you find any cool parts on my car, they probably are off of this car.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
Thank you.
So I've been racing. So I actually started out. I started track driving like 30 years ago, and again, young guy, my daily driver, no fancy trailers and tow vehicles and all that stuff, right? And I did my first track event was at Lime Rock, and when I tell you I was bit by the bug bad, had an amazing instructor and knew that was something I wanted to do. So I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then realized that I couldn't afford to have a dedicated track car, and I was at a level getting to a level of driving where I knew I couldn't drive my daily driver anymore. So I actually stopped for almost 20 years and started up again doing HPDE and a 99 M3, and then quickly wanted to become an instructor so that I could pay that forward. I'd had such an amazing experience with my instructor that I wanted to be that guy for new drivers. So I instructed and really got to a higher level of driving for about 3 or 4 years, and then got my instructor certification with BMW, and went on to do race school. But the problem with race school is if you don't go sprint racing within 2 years, you have to start over. And my car was too pretty to race wheel to wheel. It was literally looked like it came off the showroom until you looked inside and had a full roll cage. And so I didn't want to do wheel to wheel racing with that. So I went endurance racing. And endurance racing, you basically buy a seat on a team, and the team could be 3, 4, 5 people. And you do 9 to 14-hour endurance races where you race for an hour and a half to 2 hour stints. And so that was what I did for the first 2 years. So that was, I think, about 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 8. So I did a bunch of endurance racing and realized I'm not an endurance racer, I'm a sprint racer. Because when you endurance race, you're not supposed to go out and go as fast as you can all the time. You go out and you get to a certain level, and then you're supposed to just stay there. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go chase people down. And so
That sounds about right. That sounds about right for David.
sold the car and had got this proper race car, which is in the IP class, I prepared class for BMW. And it needed a lot of work. And Jason was able to put eyes on it and see a lot of stuff that we needed to do. So we basically started working on the lowest hanging fruit, things that really must be fixed immediately. And then, since then, that was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's at this point, the car is, I think it's been on the podium every race, just about every single race I've entered, the car's been on the podium. And that's because of this guy.
So we usually talk about how his races go, and he gives me his feedback, and we try to make decisions together on how to improve it, how to improve the car next time. So we kind of work together to get there.
We had one thing that happened to the car that caused me to not be able to race the early part of last season, which was some faulty work that had been done by a prior mechanic. Had some engine work done out of state before Jason had a chance to start working on that car and that engine. Some faulty work was done, which showed up during a race, and we actually thought that we had bent some valves because the car would barely run. And so Jason, we have some video of that. Jason basically took the car and went through it and found all kinds of stuff. And interesting enough, the valves weren't bent. There were just some things that had happened to the engine that caused it not to run right. So he was able to fix all of that. And we
were kind of able to, before we even took the engine apart, we had like 2 solid theories on what was going on. One of them was dead on. So when we took it apart, we knew a couple things to expect. That was last summer, right? And there was some major
last spring, last summer.
Yeah.
So the fact that, a BMW dealership is doing not just factory car work, but actually able to take a race engine apart and not just fix it, but make it highly competitive is unusual, And the fact that, I've got fellow racers that are shocked that the dealership is actually doing the race work, because typically you have to find a small specialty race shop to do it. And now we're starting to raise awareness around not just the HPDE community and people that want to take their regular street cars, but around the race community that, this is now a race shop too.
Yeah, we have a handful of track cars that come through the shop. And I would say kind of full-blown race car, not as much, We can handle it, but
it's coming.
Yeah, but we have a handful of track cars that come to the shop. Oh, being a motorsport dealership, I mean, for the techs and for me, it makes it more interesting because we're going to be, we're involved in more fun stuff like being at the racetrack. So it definitely makes the job more interesting,
Um, yeah, one of the interesting things about track driving and racing is they're concentric circles, right? So if you learn how to do high performance driving, the more time you spend doing that, the better you will be as a racer. But racecraft is almost a separate category. So what's ironic is, having been racing for a while now, you can tell the racers that have a more solid foundation from high performance driver educations, HPDEs, right? Because they learned how to walk properly before they tried to run. Racecraft and going out and trying to go as fast as you can't do that well and consistently unless you have a good foundation, and that foundation is HPDE. So because I waited so long to go racing, my first race ever, when I got out on the track and I was familiar with the track, was actually Watkins Glen. I couldn't believe, I thought there was a yellow flag out because I was passing all these cars, and I couldn't understand why I was having such an easy time passing all these cars. And it's because I had had so many HPDE laps there and had learned the proper driving line to go fast around the track. So getting through traffic is racecraft. But once you're on the driving line, being able to drive fast around a track is not about racing. It's about high performance driver education. So the best path for anybody that wants to go racing is to not go racing first, but to actually go to the track and learn how to drive your car properly on the track, and learn the line, learn vehicle dynamics, learn car control. And once you get to a point where you've been properly instructed, which is unfortunately lacking from our industry a little bit, you get guys on track that they went to racing or to solo driving too quickly, and they didn't get a good solid foundation from a good instructor. Once you've gotten trained up to a point where you're able to drive consistently and fast, you're smooth on track, smooth as fast. You want to go racing, BMW specifically has within the HPDE program, they have something called ISG, which stands for Independent Study Group. And that's training you up from a normal high performance driver education to a different class of driver, where you're actually doing side-by-side exercises with other cars. You're learning you're improving your situational awareness and understanding how close your car is to other cars, going 3 cars wide through corners on racetracks and things, but at a controlled speed. It just raises your awareness around how to drive your car well in traffic and in close proximity to other cars. And then you can go and take race school, which is what Jason's going back to do, which is, even for people that don't want to go racing, if you're serious about high performance driving, going to take race school puts tools in your toolbox that you just don't have unless you go and do that.
Right. And to first get started, like for somebody that's never been on track, though, the HPDE, high performance driving event, probably the best way to get started is with the BMW CCA, because they hold very organized events that are safe and that have pretty good instructors. And
it's a very high bar as far as the training and the type of training that you get. One of the things that we've noticed that's happening in motorsports as far as track organizations is there have been a lot of smaller track organizations that are entering motorsports, and they're selling the track day experience at a discounted rate. And it's absolutely the case that you get what you pay for. Safety is the number one thing with BMW, even with some other manufacturers that do these track day events, but BMW is about safety. And then education and fun, are number 2 and number 3, but safety is first. They tech inspect the cars highly, and the instructors that you have in the car showing you how to drive around the track have gone through a rigorous training program that when I did the ITS program, I think only 60% of the entrants passed as instructors. some of the track organizations that are selling seats now, unfortunately, you get either a mediocre instructor or you get no instructor. They actually let novice students out on track without an instructor, which is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
So I agree that BMW CCA and there's different chapters, but certainly in this area, going to Lime Rock with BMW would absolutely be the best way to get your foot in the pool.